Hello, we are here at LoveLitCon in San Diego. Get ready to laugh, get ready to swoon. Adult rom-com author Laura Piper Lee joins me now. She writes funny love stories set in the wilds of Blue Ridge, Georgia, featuring millennial 30-somethings living out their queer dreams. Hi, Laura.
Hi,
Thanks so much for joining me, for kicking it off at LoveLitCon.
I am super excited to be here.
Me too. What are you looking forward to most with LLC?
Honestly, it's seeing all my friends. The romance community is so vibrant and beautiful and loving. And so I've done enough of these now where I have readers that come up every time and I love to see them, bookstagrammer type folks and also just all my other author friends. And my little sister's coming to be my assistant. And so it's just all around going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so sweet that she gets to be a part of it with you. How fun. I feel similarly. There's so many people here that I've maybe connected with virtually, or I've even had on the podcast virtually, but we've never met in person. And so I love that you get to connect in real life with everybody. Well, let's start with just a few icebreaker type questions, bookish, beverage related. What is your go-to beverage to enjoy while you're reading a book?
Oh my goodness. So normally I read at night, and so that means I do not read with caffeine in my hand. Now, when I'm writing, there are all the caffeines, every single one of them, right? But when I'm reading at night, I usually, this is boring, drink water. But if I'm really feeling indulgent, I will have a glass of red wine.
Very nice. Yeah, that's to me red wine is so soothing at night too. It can be really comforting if you're just enjoying a good romance book too. That's perfect. What is one book that left a lasting impression on you and what made it so memorable?
Oh gosh. I have been a lifelong reader, so there's a lot of different books that could do this for me. I'm going to say, and this is one of those like, this is a loaded book to say. But I would say that The Fault in Our Stars by John Green really made a lasting impression on me because for like the first 70% of that book, I was laughing. I was having a great time. Even when the sad parts, my heart was swelling for these kids, these poor kids, these cancer kids. Oh, so sad. But that first 70% of the book, I was like, you know what? I think I could write like this. I think I can write with this kind of humor and love and heart like warming feel. And I had never seen a sense of humor that felt kind of like my own in a book before until I read that one. And then the last 30% destroyed me. And I was like, well, no, I can't do that. Oh my God, I would never do that to people. But the first 70% of it is kind of what made me think I should get into writing comedy, like, with feelings. And that's kind of my brand, I feel like, is comedy with big feelings.
I love it. I'm right there with you though. That one leaves a lasting impression. You don't forget that no matter when you read that or then if you saw the adaptation, like that one is very, very hard to forget. If you could hang out with any of your characters for a day in real life, who would you hang out with?
Oh, this is a great question. Um, hmm. I think I would hang out with a character in a book that is not out yet. His name is Everett. He's in my upcoming zombie apocalypse rom-com. He's the nerdy film professor who's like a complete indoors boy. He doesn't know how to do anything. He's really helpless out in the wild. And he goes on a first date like from an app, so like kind of a blind date situation, with a woman who turns out to be a doomsday prepper who's super anxious and has never gotten laid. And so that's the whole setup of the book, is that these very unlikely pair meet up for a date, and then the date ends in the zombie apocalypse and they have to team up. But Everett is he's such a soft, sweet, liberal arts professor type. He has seen all the movies, all the TV shows. And I just think that he would be so much fun to sit and like talk TV at length. You have some people that you're like, I just want to discuss all 4 seasons of Fargo right now. Who's going to do it with me? Everett would do it with me.
Everett's the go-to. Zombie apocalypse. I love that. Would you survive the zombie apocalypse?
I would really try. I believe that I've always been super drawn to survival fiction. Like my whole life, like girls getting like left on stranded islands and Hatchet and all these books, The Island of Blue Dolphins, like all these books I grew up with about kids surviving really made me want to be a kid who could survive. And so I feel like zombie fiction, I've always been drawn to zombie stories for the same reason. It's just interesting survival scenarios against like this flawed enemy, right? And so I would like to think that I have the strategy brain but I do not have the physique. Like I'm not fighting anybody. I'm not running fast. Like but I could maybe be the brains of an operation. Well, that's my survival benefit.
Okay, so you need a bunker. You need a bunker of some sort, but you'll make it. My husband and I actually talk about this. I know but I just feel like that's something you talk about with your
Oh
partner.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
what are we gonna do? And so he is one with nature. Like that man
Okay,
can he can make it. But I definitely can't. So I've already fully given him permission. I'm like, leave me, and we have a dog. His name's Kai. Leave us behind. It's fine. You actually have a shot. Go. Do whatever you need to do. We'll stay here and just don't worry about it. So he has full permission to just abandon us.
That's so funny because the zombie apocalypse book is called Doomsdate, and the whole idea for Doomsdate came about because of a conversation I had with my then boyfriend at the time. We had been together for like 5 years, right? I think we might have been engaged, and I was like, it was during the Walking Dead days, right? And I just made this comment about like how we would survive, and he's like, I'm not surviving, and I was like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, I'm taking the easy way out, like the first day. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't want to try to survive without HBO and air conditioning. And I was like, oh, well, that's a good point, but I'm going to survive. And I can't believe we did not talk about this before I have committed my life to you, sir. Like, how am I supposed to, like, I picked a dud. But he has since reneged on that. He says he will survive, because we have a child. And now he's willing to put in the effort for the kid.
That makes sense. And that's just where I won't leave my dog behind.
Same.
And he
Was he old?
would ruin. Well, he's 9 now, so he's getting up there. But there's no way he would make it
Aw.
because he would be loud, he would be noisy, he would try to bark at and I'm like, I'm not leaving him behind. So if he's going down, we're going down together. Okay, I love that. I can't wait for that one to come out. Your other 2 books, though, that are out right now are set in Blue Ridge, Georgia. What about Blue Ridge?
So I'm from Georgia. My folks live in Blue Ridge. I did not grow up in Blue Ridge. My folks moved there like later on. And so I kind of came to that town as an older person capable of like looking around being like, this is a pretty weird place, but in a good way. Because I grew up in like middle of nowhere, Georgia. And so Blue Ridge was like a bigger town for us. But it's just a really interesting place because I feel like people know Southern, like you see a lot of Southern stereotypes, but I don't know that people know Mountain Southern as well. And mountain people are different. They are petty. Like it's like a joke that I make in the book about mountain petty. It is such a thing. Like the meanest place on earth is the Blue Ridge, Georgia community Facebook group. Like it is the meanest place. Like my God, if you take a picture of a snake and ask what kind it is, they will run you out of town. Like they're so mean, but in a really funny way. And they do care about you, but they're going to tease you just uncontrollably. But to your face in public, they'll be pretty polite, you know? And so I thought that dynamic was so funny, just inherently funny, like this, like deeply kind place that's actually very tolerant and accepting. They just don't want to know. And they're becoming a lot more queer friendly. And so both of my first 2 books have, like, the first book has a bisexual protagonist, and the second one is a lesbian sapphic rom-com. And I base those off of, like, my relationships with people in Blue Ridge and how, like, they talk to me and how we all coexist in that environment together because, you know, it's a little bit of idealism, like wanting a place that you love to be as welcoming as you want it to be. So it's a little bit of that. But it's also, you know, Blue Ridge was named, like, the friendliest LGBTQ city in Georgia at one point, like a few years ago. And so it's like, I think it's shifting even with that mountain streak of mountain mean. It's like there. And so it's, to me, it's just an inherently funny setting for books.
I love it. My bachelorette party was in Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Mine was too.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what did you do?
We did not realize where we were staying. Well, that's a diversion. But we wanted to go tubing down the Chattahoochee.
Fun.
We went dancing at like a place that nobody was dancing at. It was that my friends were insistent.
We did the same thing.
Yeah, like it's like right off the river. I don't even remember. No. Yes. I'm sorry. We did my bachelorette in Helen, Georgia, which is right down the road.
Very
from Blue
similar.
Ridge. And I was like, wait, the Alpine Village isn't I was at the Alpine Village for my bachelorette. But anyway, yes, we did part of it in Blue Ridge because of where our cabin was.
Okay, very nice. The mountain mean there. So I remember, so Blue Ridge is to most people probably not the most obvious bachelorette destination,
Yeah.
but I was like, I just want a cabin with my friends, and it
Hmm.
was relatively easy for everybody to get there because you can get into Atlanta and then go from there.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of coming from different parts of the country. So relatively easy. There was one night where, so also if you don't know this, Blue Ridge like shuts down at
Yeah.
9 o'clock.
Hmm.
There's not a whole lot going on, which didn't really matter to me, but there was one night that we were like, well, what should we do? And there was one bar that was open, but you would have no idea that it was based on the outside. So one girl went in just to be like, hey, we heard you guys are open. Are you open? Can we come hang out for a little bit? And the bartender goes, yeah, we're open. We just didn't really want anybody to know. So that's why we have all the lights off because we just didn't feel like doing anything tonight. And they're like, but you can come in and hang out. Like, we just didn't want to publicize it. It was so strange. I don't think they were actually
Totally on brand.
super happy that we were there. They probably talked a lot of crap about us later, but we had a great time. Okay, so the first one, Hannah Tate Beyond Repair, and then the newest one you just mentioned, Zoe Brennan First Crush, both set in Blue Ridge. Let's talk about Zoe Brennan First Crush a little bit more. What is that one about?
So Zoe Brennan, I always say she's the loneliest lesbian in Blue Ridge because I grew up queer in a really small Georgia town. And there's this thing that happens when you are like one of five queer people where everybody interdates, like at one point you're going to end up going doing the rounds. And then oftentimes there is somebody who's just the last person standing, right? Like everyone else is paired off. You've dated everyone. None of them were right for you. And you're all still weirdly friends because you're queer and it's like this bonding thing. And so I really wanted Zoe Brennan to like explore that joke of a situation that happens in small towns when there's not a huge queer population of like dating age. And in Blue Ridge, there's actually a very good sized queer population, but everybody moves there paired up. It's like a place people move together after they're married. And so Zoe's experiencing this, like being like the last woman standing, right? And she's running a small family vineyard, and her dad, who's the vintner, that's the person who makes the wine, he gets called back home to Italy to take care of his sick mother, and he has hired Zoe's first crush and queer awakening, Lane Woods, to be the temporary vintner. Lane, however, has been in Napa all these years, and she's had like a big professional failure and is coming home with her tail between her legs. And so she is not happy to be at this small Georgia vineyard after she's been at like prestigious Napa. So she's a wine snob. And so a lot of it, the story I really wanted to explore is like, party wine, Georgia vineyards, not serious versus Napa snob, but like that feeling when you were so obsessed with someone, you liked them so much, and then they come back and they're an asshole. And like, how do you deal with that, And then as if that was not enough of a setup, before Zoe knows that Lane has been hired to be her vintner, before any of that happens, she's just upset that she's upset that her grandmother's sick and her father is leaving. And she goes and has an impulsive blindfolded threesome with her long-term hookup and an unknown third participant who the blindfolds come off and it is Lane. And then she finds out the next day that her father has hired Lane. None of this is spoilers. It's all in the back of the book. My publisher, I was like, you want to put that in the jacket copy? All right. And it does have, the blindfolded threesome is chapter 2. So real early on spice. Because I loved the idea I love the whole trope of like sleeping with someone and then finding out you work together. But how do you do that with somebody that you've known your whole life? How is it a surprise, right?
So it's so much more complex.
With blindfolds.
All of the layers. Oh my goodness. Okay, so many things I want to get to, and I know we don't even have a ton of time. Without spoiling anything, though, what was your favorite scene?
In Zoe Brennan?
Yes.
Probably the soccer scene. So Lane was the soccer star of their high school, and she comes back home, and her niece and nephew, who she's been like kind of estranged from, they're like little kids, they're playing soccer, and they all go to watch soccer. And Lane, who is used to like very good soccer, has never seen what a 6-year-old soccer game looks like. And it's bedlam. It's chaos. They don't know the rules of the game. And Lane just gets, she's a very competitive person. So she just gets progressively upset by how bad the 6-year-old soccer game is. And there's like a ref who's like, really making things worse. And I really enjoyed messing with Lane, who's been this asshole, this wine snob, who's like very big chip on her shoulder, to see her just kind of crumble under the pressure of her own competitive spirit with 6-year-olds. And it's a very fun, funny scene. And it made me love Lane even more for how upset she gets.
You are 100% just making me think of, because my sister-in-law and her kids live in Georgia and they play soccer, and I can just see this like playing out in my real life in some way, shape, or form. That's awesome. If you were to pair wine with this story, what type of wine would you recommend?
So the story is very centered on wine, and there are two wines that play a big part in it. One's called Wish They All Were Georgia Girls, and it's like a peach bubbly party wine, and like a rosé but with peach notes to it. And so I would say that for part of it. But the other one is this like very complex red. Those are the two wines of the story, and that one's just called Redemption Red, because it's like this marriage of Lane's winemaking prowess and Zoe's mother, who was the vintner originally, like her old recipes, and it's a very complex balance, and that's kind of the story between them too. So I would say I think it's both tones, like the frothy, fun, silly rom-com, but then all the big feelings of, what it means to run your family business and how it can trap you in a place.
I love that. Love the options, love the variety, and how much it just captures the essence of the whole story. I'm gonna have to look into those two because they sound right up my alley as well. We talked about Doomsday a little bit. You also have another book coming out,
Yes.
Pot Shot.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that one.
So Pot Shot comes out in May. It is about a woman with Crohn's disease, which I also have. And it's my first book not set in Georgia. It's set in New Jersey. I've been in Philadelphia for the last 13 years, so I feel like it's time. It's time to write a joke book about South New Jersey, which is right across the bridge from us. Philly. A lot of people don't realize Philly and New Jersey are right. We're together. And so it's all about this woman with Crohn's disease who is determined to open up her own cannabis dispensary. And her high school rival, who has this vendetta against weed, Julian. He is an ER doctor in Philadelphia. He gets in major trouble for doing something real bad. And he is kind of put on probation to work on his non-existent bedside manner. He's just very bad with patients who are conscious. He's good with the comatose ones, but he's bad with the conscious ones. And so he's been sentenced to work at this family medicine medical practice right next door to Nomi's cannabis dispensary. And he is just horrified that his old crush, his rival from high school, is now opening an amoral weed bordello. He thinks it's the worst thing ever. So if you like Parks and Recreation, and that sort of small town community feud situation, with all the crazy side characters of a small town that get involved in civics, these folks that come to these meetings are wild, and also kind of the humor of Broad City with the girl stoner humor. That's what I think of with this book. And so it's enemies to lovers, and Julian, when he falls so hard. He is a man that begs. It's awesome. Very, very satisfying to watch him learn his lesson on trying to thwart all of Nomi's dreams.
I'm so excited for that. These they sound like laugh out loud funny. I love the variety of the stories too, so I'm super excited for those. Is there a trope that you haven't written yet that you are itching to get to?
Oh, that's a good question. Not a trope per se. Well, actually, maybe yes. And I think my fifth book, I've just pitched it and I've gotten the green light. I've always wanted to write a lovable himbo. A guy that's he's so sweet, but he might not be the smartest tool, sharpest tool in the shed kind of type. I love a lovable golden retriever himbo. And so I think that the main character, the male main character of my fifth book, which is tentatively titled Haunt and Bothered. I got to get used to saying that.
A little bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, a little bit. And I'm like, oh, that's good to notice now. That he might be a himbo. You never know once you start writing, like if it's going to come out the character that you want, or he'll become his own thing. But right now, I've always wanted to write a himbo, and I do think that he's got big himbo energy.
Okay. Well, with that said, so are you more of a plotter or a pantser?
Oh, plotter all the way.
Okay.
I like to set out like what's going to happen, but then let myself enjoy. Like I'll be like big crazy soccer scene, right? And then when I get to it, I'm like, all right, what's going to unfold? So it's a little bit of both. Like I know the broad strokes of the story and how it's going to go, but since I write comedy and my books are very comedy heavy, like I feel like you can't plan all comedy. Like you can kind of figure out the higher, broad strokes of it, but in the moment you need to be like feeling the humor to write the banter, to write the funny things that happen. So I always give myself room to play in all of these scenes.
Absolutely. No, that makes so much sense. For everyone that wants to connect with you, where is the best place for them to do so?
I am most active on Instagram at Laura Piper Lee, but I also have a Substack that's just at Laura Piper Lee as well, where I do like fun newsletter giveaways and, keep my folks up to date on all my news and all that stuff too.
Very true to us millennials in our 30s. I think that's where we all just kind of congregate.
Yeah.
When it comes to the crazy world that is social media. This was so much fun. I hope you have the best time at LoveLitCon. Everyone can connect with you. I'll put everything in the podcast notes so they can easily find you on Instagram, find your website and your Substack. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me today. It was so much fun to talk to you, learn more about you, and I'm excited for those upcoming books too. They sound hilarious. I mean, they even sound like something my husband would enjoy reading. So,
Doomsdate really is for somebody who enjoys both comedy and horror. Like it's a comedy horror and then it's got some steam. So I think it's got something for everybody in my opinion.
I cannot wait. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It was lovely meeting you.
Nice to meet you. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening. The Narratives and Nightcaps podcast is a production of The Craft Co. with intro music created by Remington Haynes.
Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow at Narratives and Nightcaps on Instagram or visit our website, narrativesandnightcaps.com.
Sign up for our newsletter to always know what we're reading next, which authors are joining us on the show, and for extra bookish and beverage info.
Connect with our additional co-hosts, Jordan and Emily, as well.
You can find me on Instagram at Cozy Reads and Sips.
And you can find me on Instagram at books.bottles.
Cheers!
Cheers!